Hello one and all, and welcome to our Surge Knights video about reoccurring boss battles in The Legend of Zelda. And of course, while you're watching this video, you get to hear all of the magnificent Zelda music throughout the ages. These boss battles are the same in both element, how you defeat them, or just the same boss battles in general, starting off with Gohma from the Wind Waker. The version of Gohma that you're currently watching is Gohma in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, being my personal favorite because you have to swing overhead with the grappling hook, and just because she looks plain epic. Gohma has been in several Legend of Zelda games, but in every single one, the only way of defeating her is to attack her gigantic one-eye eye. Gohma has been in 7 Legend of Zelda games, and in each one, she's not that different. Gohma's most recent form was in Twilight Princess, where you had to shoot an arrow at her while on the ceiling. The Ocarina of Time version is not that different, being the boss of Inside the Great Deku Tree, where you have to shoot her with a slingshot, and then stab her with your sword to death. I would show you every single version of Gohma, but there's so many, this video would probably be twice as long, so I'll just show you this Monsters Incorporated monster from Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which is very similar to Gohma, having to stab this monster in the eye, but beforewards shooting with an arrow. I also want to point out what I call bomb-swallowing enemies. There aren't that much of them, but I do very much enjoy them, like King Dodongo here. A very similar version of King Dodongo can be found in the Earth Temple of Skyward Sword, where you have to throw a bomb into this rock's mouth, watch it swallow it, and stab its eye, much like a Gohma, only without the bomb, you know. Yay! Dark Link, or Anti-Link, or Link's Shadow, or whatever you want to call him. The very first version of this character came in Link 2, and has been in several other Zelda games, mostly mini-boss battles, and has made several other appearances, and not only just boss battles. What I like about Link's Shadow is that he attacks so much like you, so you have to defeat him out of pure wit. Now Miyamoto took Link's image out of Peter Pan, and Peter Pan fights his own shadow, so it can easily be traced that this is a reference to Peter Pan and his shadow battles. Here we have the mini-boss fight of the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time, being Link's Shadow, in my personal opinion, being much more memorable than the actual boss battle. Like I said, you have to defeat this enemy out of pure wit, or just use the hammer as well. In Super Smash Bros., one of the skins that you can use for Link is obviously Link's Shadow, so that's a pretty cool Easter egg, I'd say, if you would call it that. According to Twilight Princess, creatures called interlopers tried to take over the sacred realm for themselves when the Triforce appeared, and for some reason they look like Link's Shadow. Why? I don't know, but hey, you be the judge. In this same cutscene, the interlopers, or Link's Shadows, also turn Link into Fizzy Soda, and Link becomes one of them for some reason. While on the subject of Twilight Princess, it's worth mentioning that a Link's Shadow Easter egg can be found within Link's house. To do this, go into your basement with your lantern on, look into the mirror, and turn your lantern off. You'll see Link's Shadow staring at you through the mirror. Dragons! Yay! Dragons pretty much having a guarantee of awesome in general started off in the original Legend of Zelda and have gone on for a very long time, including the Twilight Princess version, which requires the 2 hook shots that you get within the temple. There are also a whole bunch of conveniently placed pea-hats that you fly around on to stab it. This version here is the Ocarina of Time dragon, which can be found in the Fire Temple, and requires the Megaton Hammer to defeat. And why am I on the wall while trying to defeat it? I have no idea. I do have an idea, though, that dragons have made it to the final boss fight of Zelda games, being Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, being Onyx the dragon. And now we're going to do dead stuff, or living dead stuff, because, you know, if it was already dead, it wouldn't be that much of a boss fight. Here we have Skeldridge, which you shoot giant rocks at. Here we have Stalwart, a Twilight Princess boss, which is personally my favorite out of the whole entire game. After his first phase, where you have to spin around him on a gigantic top, you have to spin around him on a gigantic wall, while smashing into his gigantic face, while avoiding some gigantic fireballs, and then slashing the gigantic tombstone rock thing that's in his skull. It's also worth mentioning there are a whole bunch of undead mini-bosses, like this one in Skyward Sword. Now let's move on to the ghost or phantom boss battles, like this one in Ocarina of Time in the Forest Temple, which is Phantom Ganon. In this boss battle, our phantom friend hides through paintings, which you have to shoot at, and then he shoots electricity balls at you, much like the real Ganon. This phantom copycat of our arch nemesis can also be found in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Going back to Oot, there's another boss battle being Bongo Bongo, 2 gigantic hands, and an invisible core, which has one eye which you must stab, much like Goma. I want to finish the dead stuff portion of this list by showing you this Twilight Princess mini-boss, which at first you have to bite as a wolf, and then shoot arrows with, while it tries to stab you with its gigantic sword. I mean, it's a mini-boss. What else would it do with a gigantic sword? And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to finish this list with perhaps one of the most famous last bosses of all time. Ganondorf! I shall rule all of Hyrule with my gigantic legs. Ganon appears as the very first boss in the very first Legend of Zelda, and being incredibly hard. The Evil Gerudo's most recent appearance would be in Twilight Princess. What I'm showing here is the horse battle, which occurs within the game. During this portion of the boss battle, Zelda shoots light arrows at Ganondorf, while you stab at him while riding your trusty steed Epona. Zelda also shoots light arrows at the foe in this version of the boss battle, being in Wind Waker. Chubby Man throws his swords at you while you dodge them and stab at the right time. I would like to end the video with the animal version of Ganondorf being Ganon. In this version, it is the Dark Beast Ganon, Twilight Princess. In this version, you have to shoot your arrows at Ganon while he runs around and tries to attack you unsuspectedly. My personal favorite version of Ganon, however, is definitely the Ocarina of Time version. I just can never forget that moment where he pops out of the rocks, makes my heart stop, then turns into the evil beast. That's all I have for today, but remember to subscribe to the Surge Knights and the Surge Knights link.